Hey, what up everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you with my review of King of the Ring 1994. I watched this on the WWE Network the other day. I had so much fun watching Bret the Hitman Hart win King of the Ring 1993 and seeing Hulk Hogan's last match in WWF for so long that I thought I would continue on and watch the next one and see where we go from there. This was a bad show. This was a bad show with some good matches, but just overall, the whole thing, holding itself together, honestly didn't really go over that well with me. I don't know if I just wasn't in a wrestling mood, or maybe I just had questions because I was trying to remember and trying to piece together things about this show. The one thing I could find when I was trying to look up matches, or trying to find out what the storyline was, is sometimes as I'll be watching the thing on the television, I'll type in something on Google to see, what the storyline was between two guys that I couldn't remember. And the one thing that I was trying to remember was, how everything was so screwed up with this King of the Ring. Honestly, at this time, WWF was sort of losing a lot of wrestlers to WCW. There was big time, budget cuts with WWF. If you think what's going on with the WWE today, with them releasing those 11 wrestlers, was that 2 weeks ago, was big. They were going through lots of regressions in 1994. This was the dark days of WWF, and it only got a little bit darker from here until they were able to turn it around in, I guess, debatably a year, maybe 2 years, and 3 years before they really started, getting the ball rolling again. It took a good long while. WWF Monday Night Raw was a better wrestling show than WCW Nitro before people really started flipping the channel over. It was just really for those diehards that never really left them. I always would watch WCW Nitro, but my heart always was with WWF, and I always wanted them to win the war. And I know it seemed like the deck was stacked against them, but just with so many older guys on the WCW roster and never seeing anything ever progressing with guys moving up the card, it was only just a matter of time before Raw was going to retake it with stars on the rise with The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, having guys like The Undertaker that had been there forever, and they were still able to go in main event matches and not look like they were holding down the show. But this one kicked off. This was held, I believe, in Cleveland, and most of the things you'll find online about this show is how bad the announcing was. Gorilla Monsoon and Macho Man Randy Savage did a wonderful job, but for some reason, Vince got a local, I think he was a football hero, he probably played for the Browns or something like that, and I think he might have been a sports commentator for Cleveland, and I can see why you bring this guy out for maybe a match somewhere along the way, but to have him for the whole shebang was bad news. He was not a wrestling announcer, didn't know what was going on. I don't think he was listening to what Vince was saying in his ears. I don't think he was listening to what anybody was saying. Countless times during the show, it is, how much does that guy weigh? Another just bad quotes along the way. He cashed his check from Vince. I'm sure that he loved it, and I'm pretty sure the WWE never asked this guy to show up again. King of the Ring quarterfinal matches kicked off the show with 4 of them. Razor Ramon versus Bam Bam Bigelow was a good way to kick this show off. Honestly, I was sort of surprised with this King of the Ring coming after WrestleMania 10. Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels having 2 of the two. What did I say? 2. Probably because I was thinking of the ladder match they had at SummerSlam as well with the rematch. But they had one of the best WrestleMania matches of all time. With the ladder match just being a big sort of stipulation on the card, and just being 2 of the best guys that go out there, and then they stole the show. With so many people thinking about what was happening with the tournament, 3-man tournament, I guess you can say, for the WWF Championship at that time. I think at the end of the night, everybody was wondering about Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels, where they were going to go from there. And I was trying to find out, how he lost the title already, and it seemed that he had lost the title to Diesel on an episode of Superstars, and maybe He definitely had big plans for Diesel. He would go on to become one of the first Triple Crown champions in WWF to win it only in 1 year, having the tag titles, having the Intercontinental title, and the WWF Championship that he would win later in November in the year. But Razor and Bam Bam put on a good match. Bam Bam, to me, is hot and cold. He has great matches with a lot of guys, and other matches just seems like he's just phoning it in. But I think they wanted to kick off the pay-per-view in a great way. He put Razor over, and he made him look really good. Bam Bam Bigelow in shoot interviews is very outspoken about the Clique. I do like him because he's one of those guys who doesn't believe in wins and losses. The only thing he cares about is cashing his check at the end of the day. And he put Razor over, and he made him look good in the way. From there, we went on to IRS beating Mabel. Owen Hart defeating Tatanka in what was a great wrestling match that went on for 8 minutes. Everything that was great about wrestling. I don't want to knock Owen and his win of the King of the Ring tournament here by saying that it was a bad show. You know, getting to see Owen Hart wrestle in 3 matches against Tatanka, the 1-2-3 Kid, and Razor Ramon was really, really good. It's just a lot of these matches along the way, like the next one with 1-2-3 Kid and Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett gets all pissed off about not being able to move on in the tournament, so he just beats the crap out of 1-2-3 Kid, which turns into sort of an injury angle as they help 1-2-3 Kid to the back, and they're wondering, you know, will 1-2-3 Kid be able to return, or is Owen moving on straight to the finals? Sort of like a repeat with the Tatanka versus Lex Luger draw. In the first one where they went to a time limit draw. From there we went to the WWF Championship match with Diesel versus Bret Hart. This was a good one. They had sort of set up, you know, Shawn Michaels was going to be in Diesel's corner because they were they were best buds. You know, Shawn Michaels brought Diesel in as his bodyguard, and now sort of Diesel was They weren't really doing the angle they did at Royal Rumble with Shawn helping eliminate Diesel. He wasn't jealous of him, but Diesel was definitely passing Shawn Michaels up. When Diesel would come out on shows when Vince McMahon would commentate, you could really think that Vince thought that Diesel was the coolest guy to ever walk the face of the earth. He really put him over, and Diesel was, you know, shooting up the ranks. You know, he'd already won the Intercontinental Championship, and here in this match, he was going to fight against Bret Hart for the WWF Championship. With you know, the two champions collide. Of course, they're really putting over the fact that only the WWF Championship was on the line. Was Diesel going to be able to beat him? And we had seen Diesel and Shawn come down to sort of take out Bret on the King's Court on Monday Night Raw, for Bret Hart to say that he was going to make sure he had somebody in his corner that we hadn't seen in a while to you know, fight off Shawn and make sure that it was a one-on-one versus Diesel. Bret Hart brought back his tag team partner, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, you know, bringing back together the Hart Foundation, a team that we hadn't seen since I believe 1991, and I think maybe 1990. Is when they stopped tagging after they lost the tag titles at SummerSlam. I believe SummerSlam 90s when they lose the titles for the last time. And then Jim the Anvil Neidhart would go on to become one of the worst wrestling announcers of all time. And he would team up with Owen to form the new foundation and sort of, you know, go on from there. But there was a good time when he disappeared. Jim the Anvil Neidhart coming back looked like he was going to be in the corner for Bret and be his best buddy. Turns out in the end he had interests from the outside that we wouldn't find out till later. But in this match, Diesel and Shawn are really putting the boots to Bret, and it looks like Bret is beaten down to the point he's not going to be able to win this match. But he's still, you know, a fighting champion. He's going to go out there. But Jim the Anvil Neidhart hits the ring, hits Diesel with the big clothesline, lays him out for the disqualification. Bret, of course, gets to keep his championship after everybody clears out of the ring. The ring announcer really does his best to clarify that Bret Hart still is the champion. He gets in his own introduction, he gets to wave and hobble to the back, and he's tearing through the back, trying to find out where Jim the Anvil Neidhart is. He wants an explanation of what happened. From there we go to the semifinal matches with Razor beating IRS, and who cares, sort of fashion. Ted DiBiase did join him out there for that match. Owen Hart comes out, and we're all, greeted with, will 1-2-3 Kid come down for the match. He hobbles his way down, but in a short match, Owen defeats 1-2-3 Kid to move on, setting up the finals of Owen Hart versus Razor Ramon. Then from there, we go to a tag team championship match in order to give those guys a few minutes of rest. The Head Shrinkers, they fight the team of Crush and Yokozuna, which is led by Mr. Fuji and Jim Cornette. I thought this was a weird sort of putting together. Of course, WrestleMania 10, Yokozuna had just lost the World Heavyweight Championship, WWF Championship, whatever you want to call it. And it seems to have him in a tag team. It's kind of weird. And I know about this time, he formed a tag team with him, and it would, rotating partners with Owen and Bulldog and other things. But Crush and Yokozuna, to me, honestly, was sort of a weird pairing, especially with Crush coming out of his big angle with Macho Man and the retirement match, even though he lost. That was like shoot. They beat each other all over Madison Square Garden in there. It wasn't a retirement match. Maybe it might have been Macho Man's last match, but it was it had some sort of a stipulation. Falls count anywhere. He tied him up in the back. It didn't really work. He fell down. I think I have a review of WrestleMania 10 if you want to go check that out. But the Head Shrinkers are able to defeat Crush and Yoko when Lex Luger comes out of the back. Lex Luger was having trouble with Crush at this time, and he just sort of stood there, and that was all the mix-up that they needed for the Head Shrinkers, able to pull out the win. Owen Hart beat Razor in a great match. If anything, find a way where you can watch this match. It has to be on that Best of the King of the Ring that came out a little while. Last time I made a review of the last one, I held the DVD up, but I didn't think about it this time. And then we go to one of the weirdest finishes. Of course, we see Jim the Anvil Neidhart running down out of the back, beating up Razor and feeding him into the ring for Owen to get the win. And then we have the coronation ceremony where Jim Neidhart actually is the one who crowns Owen, and it sort of puts Owen in the fashion. We've seen Owen beat Bret at WrestleMania 10. We've seen Owen become King of the Ring the same way that Bret did the year before. So it's setting up the fact that we're moving to SummerSlam, and they're going to have a match where Bret would face Owen, just one more time to prove to everyone that he is the better heart, while Owen is sort of like that devious heel who's going to make sure that he wants to beat his brother so everybody knows that he's better than him. The SummerSlam match ends up being a steel cage match, and it ends up being one that you really, really need to see. SummerSlam 1994. I don't think it's the main event final, because that's the year of the dueling Undertakers. I was wearing that shirt yesterday. I thought I had it on today, but I got the Nexus shirt on. But SummerSlam 94. I think that they only opened WrestleMania 10. For some reason, though, I thought it would be the opener of SummerSlam 94. But the main event of the King of the Ring actually ends up being a Jerry Lawler against Roddy Piper. This was a match that was set up because Piper was the main event referee, the special guest referee for WrestleMania 10. Jerry Lawler took some shots at him about being a bad ref and having interests out only for himself and things like that. And they sort of traded videos back and forth where it looked like, Roddy Piper was sort of filming his own vignettes, sort of like The Shield does, or did today. And sort of mailing him in, like on a blank tape to Vince, and Vince would just play him on the air, while, Jerry Lawler, who was at Raw every week, was getting his own King's Courts in order to put them over. They actually brought out a Roddy Piper impersonator. I don't know if it was Jason Sensation, the guy who did a lot of impersonations during the 90s for WWF, but he ended up being really, really good, and he didn't really look the part because he dressed up like Roddy Piper, and he actually came out for the match, and he felt bad for what he did to Piper, and ended up delivering the final blow that put Jerry Lawler out in order to sort of save face with Piper and make Piper look good. But this was sort of put over as a Roddy Piper's return to the WWF, even though the return wouldn't last long before he ended up on in WCW wrestling Hulk Hogan at Starrcade in their big WrestleMania main event, where he would actually beat him in a non-title match that nobody ever told us was non-title. But as you can see, I'm having a ton of fun with WWF Network, watching different shows of all time periods. I'm feeling sort of bad that I'm leaving out WCW, watching a lot of the WWF shows, but then again, like I told you in the beginning of this video, I was always more favorable towards WWF. I would watch WCW, but my heart has always been with them, wanting them to succeed. So, well, I think that's the end of this show. I hope everybody has a good 4th of July, and peace out. See you later.